I'm making this video to design someone who would like to, in their class, offer a discussion option through the Google network or through Google Tools. I'm going to use Google Community today to help you identify how to do that. So with this being in mind, I have brought up here the first visual that you can see. What I've done is I've put out some information specifically for Joey, Kyler, Josh, and Daniel, and this is their form to respond. So I put response form for Monopoly. We played a game about competition using different styles of competition to see how it would affect the market. And then I had some questions in here for them to answer. Now they weren't the only group, so I copied and pasted these questions into another share what's new area and posted the new names, or just typed the new names in, and allowed a different group to be able to answer similar questions, but probably had a different experience, so their answers will be different, which is what I'm looking for. So if you want to set one of these up with your students, this is how you do it. You go to all, well, I'm sorry, I go to all communities because that's where all mine are. You go down to this drop tab over here after you've gone to your Google Plus, and if you mouse over it, there's a communities option. And in your communities, you'll have these. You may have some communities, you may not. You'll notice I have one for each class, and that's because I created one. So if you go up here to create community and pick private, and then you can call it, I call it my class name, so I'll do a test here, and I'll delete this when I'm done. We'll call it business law, even though I already have one. We'll call it business law test, or let's call it sample. Alright. And I want it to hide from searches because I don't want anybody else trying to get into this community. I just want my students. So then I'll hit create community. Alright, and here we are. And it'll give me some options on finishing up your community. I'll talk about some of these things. So I'm going to hit done and we'll keep going. Alright, if you want to invite people, this is where you get your students pulled in. Now for me, I invited everybody in my class. And how did I do that? Well, it's a little bit easier if you have them type their names in here, or type their emails, their Gmails in right here. You could send out invites if you already knew all their Gmails and do it yourself in advance. And that's something you can get if you have already set up drives and shared folders with them. But I like to have them come in and type it because even doing that, I believe it goes faster. So I'm going to actually hit cancel here because I don't have anybody to add yet. But you can imagine if you were joining a group, and maybe, well, I'm not going to add anybody yet. I'm just going to hit cancel. So now, this is your basic setup, and this is what you're going to be using. The Share What's New dialog box allows you to add a bunch of different items when you're sharing a conversation with people, and this is what really makes it a learning community. So there's a couple things we need to set up before we do this. Number one thing, turn notifications off, because that's going to take away them sending an email to your phone telling you you've got a response. And unless you really want that, I don't like to have it on there unless I'm taking a class myself. It can be kind of overwhelming and it floods your inbox. So I turn those off. The other item I like to do right here is this gearbox. And I want to edit community, and in here you saw those side posts or those side tabs. You notice there's already a discussion tab. I'm going to add a category, or maybe leave this as discussion, but I like to add categories and base it around the chapter that I'm covering. And sometimes I'll give it the chapter and the name of the chapter. So let's say we're in business law right now, so let's call it chapter 1, beginnings of law. Let's say that was the name of my first chapter. And then I would hit enter, and you'd see it says category added, and then you need to hit save. Okay, I'm not going to add anything else yet. I'm just showing you how to add a side tab here. So right now I'm in all posts. That'll always be there. You can't get rid of it. You also have a side tab that involves discussions. Looks very similar because there's nothing in there, but that's okay. And then chapter 1, beginning of law. So I'm going to go to chapter 1, beginning of law, and explain to you how this whole system works now. So in the Share What's New dialog box, this is where I would add names and tell students what I need them to do. So I'm going to type in, I'll use those gentlemen that I had in my previous class. And I'm going to pick Nate because I don't remember the other guy's name. So I have these guys identified as that's who I want to respond to this particular share what's new or this particular post. I call them posts. So if I say share what's new or if I say post, I mean the same thing. So now let's say I want them to answer a question in business law. Let's see, which text, oh gosh, I can't write, is the basis for all laws in our world? And so it's kind of a question out there that they kind of have to think about and kind of derive. They could go do some research, whatever you want them to do. And so I would share that question with them. Before I do share the question, some options that they're going to have, you might think or pre-think before you ask the question you're going to ask. Do you want them to upload a video as their post? Would you like them to link something? Would you like them, oh, I'm sorry, I said video when I clicked on photo. Photo or video. Events probably not going to come into play. You could make a poll for people to fill out too if you wanted to. I won't go into those specifically right now. I'm just going to share this. Excuse me. Okay, so once you've put this out here, you have some options. And those options are, how do you want your students to respond? So if you only want Joey, Kyler, Josh, and Nate to respond here, I would have them add a comment. Okay? Now, the catch is those same options of text, photo, link, video, event, and poll are not available in the comments section, but that may be by design and by your preference, because this is the part where they just discuss what they believe, which text is the basis of all laws in our world, which I need to correct, so I'll fix that here in a second. So this is where they could post and answer and type whatever they wanted to say. So maybe they'll say the Bible. Maybe they'll say their agenda, because some of them are in school or whatever, and maybe they have to explain why, because it contains so forth and so on. So I'll keep going. And they post their comment, and then it shows what time they posted and what they said. And so that's time stamped and never goes away. The other thing is, if whoever else is in their community and looking at this could +1 that comment, telling that person, hey, I like what you said, without having to actually say anything. Sometimes, especially young kids, they'll overdo it a little bit. They'll just go +1 everything. And you got to be careful and tell them what +1 means before they start +1ing. Otherwise, it gets kind of out of control and it's ridiculous. So that's one way they can post and respond to this. If you wanted to, there's another way you could do this if you wanted more of these items to be involved. And if that's the case, what I would do is set up a separate side tab over here for each group, and I would label it Joey, Kyler, Josh, and Nate. And that's where they responded. So when they respond, and I'll do one of those real quick. I'll go in here, we'll edit community, add another category. Joey, Kyler, Josh, Nate. I'll wait till it says there it's added, and then I'm going to go save, and you'll see it over here. So now, maybe I want them to answer the same thing, but I want them to post it here. So maybe I'd ask them the same question, but they know this is their side tab, so I don't need to put their names in there. So I could say, which text started all law? And I don't know if that's the same question about put two alls in there again. And I'll share, and I might put a little extra direction. Use evidence from photos, links, oh gosh, I can't type today, video, and I'm going to leave out polls to support your answer. So I'm going to leave out event and poll because I don't think they're important for this particular question. And so I'll hit share. I know what else you need to put. Use evidence from photos, links, video to support your answer. Use the share You only have to do this once, and then they'll know what you mean. Share what's new, dialog box to respond. All right, so then I'll hit share, and then every person that responds will have their own dialog box that they responded to. They'll click on the share what's new. They'll use their evidence link to do that, and they can still write their answer, their text answer part right in here, and that's pretty convenient. The nice thing that does, and let's say Joey's responding and he types in the Bible, and he puts his because, and finishes it out, and then he goes in and adds a link, and I'm just gonna do a fake link here. Maybe I'll type in, he goes out to Google, he types in the Bible, and let's see, he finds this link here, and let's say he just uses this. This is going to be the start of his evidence. So I copied and pasted that link at the top. I'm going to go back to my community, and I'll paste that link in there. And maybe he says, my link below suggests that laws started here. And then he goes on to explain more. Blah, 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 blah. So then he hits share. And let's say that's Joey's post. Alright. And the next thing he could do, is, or you could do as a teacher, is you could have him or have the other students comment right here on his post. So now you have not only good structure of comments, but you also have good content going into the comments after people have posted their whole big idea. So it really becomes a professional learning community at that point, because now they're just bouncing ideas off of each other and trying to come up with a reason or a purpose for each thing happening. So it's really, in my opinion, this is one of the best things that Google Communities offers for schools in general. That little opportunity right there. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you before I leave you today is back in that first post, I made a mistake, and this happens all the time. Or maybe you want to add to a question. These things happen. Fortunately, there's an edit post, and I can go in there and I can just delete that little bit of information. Oops. Okay, I know what happened there. I'm going to hit cancel. This is another good thing to learn. I didn't want it to delete it all, so I'm going to go back to edit post. And you can't select the whole word to delete stuff. You have to delete it all at once by itself. If you select stuff, I forgot about that in this, it'll delete the whole thing. You don't want that. So I'm going to save there. And now you'll see it's been updated. There's some other options you can do. You can view post activity. You can delete the post if you, like at the end of the year, I delete all the posts or actually I delete all the comments. I don't delete the posts. So I can start over again for the next year fresh with a new group. You can link to post, or you could mute post. You could disable people from making posts or comments on this particular side tab, or this particular post itself. So something to consider if that post should be done and you don't want people to add any more to it. Those are some options you have. If you pin post, it puts it at the top of the community, meaning if I click on all posts, by default, these posts are here because there's only 3 of them, but sometimes you'll get 15, 16, 17 posts. Whichever one you pin, let's say it's this one. If I hit refresh, it's going to pin that one to the top. So if you go to all posts, you'll see this one at the top every time. And that's whatever post you want it to be. For me, it's typically my sub-lesson plans if I'm going to be gone, because that's the post that I need everybody to see all the time whenever that happens. So those are your options for that portion of sharing a group discussion through Google Community. I hope this helps. I hope this is something you can use. There are Google Hangouts as well, but I don't have time here because my time's going to run out to show you that. If this is not what you're looking for, let me know and I'll fix you up with Google Hangout. Just send me an email or respond or whatever you need to. See me at school someday and I'll talk to you about both options. All right. Thank you for your time. I hope this helps. Have a wonderful day.